The unspoken truth about having no friends. It's not what you think. You know that feeling, right? It's 8 p.m. on a Friday. Your apartment is so quiet you can hear the low hum of the refrigerator. Your phone is a dark, silent brick on the coffee table. You scroll through social media for a second, a masochistic little ritual, and see the evidence. A cascade of blurred smiles in crowded bars, group photos from concerts, someone's backyard barbecue lit with string lights and echoing with laughter you can almost hear. And the question, the one that's always there just beneath the surface, rises up again. What's wrong with me? It's a quiet poison, that question. It seeps into everything. You start to audit your own personality. Am I too quiet? Too intense? Do I not laugh at the right jokes? Is there some fundamental social software everyone else was installed with at birth that I missed? You remember the last time you tried to force it, the last time you stood in a room full of people, drink in hand, nodding along to a conversation about reality TV or crypto or whatever noise was filling the air, and you felt it, this profound, soul-deep disconnect. It was like you were a ghost, screaming into a vacuum, and no one could hear you because you were on a different frequency entirely. You came home that night more exhausted, more hollow, than if you'd spent the entire evening moving furniture. That's the curse of it. The loneliness in a crowd is a sharper, more specific pain than the loneliness of being by yourself. But what if I told you that feeling, that very disconnect, isn't a malfunction? What if it's a feature? What if the silence in your life isn't an emptiness, but a fertile ground? I'm not here to give you platitudes. I'm not going to tell you you just haven't met your people yet and send you on your way. I want to punch you in the gut with a harder, more liberating truth. Your lack of friends isn't a sign of your weakness. It might be the clearest evidence of your strength. It's proof that your soul has outgrown the shallow end of the pool, and you're waiting for the deep water, even if it means treading water alone for a while. Let me take you back. A few years ago, I hit my own rock bottom of solitude. It wasn't by choice, not at first. A relationship ended, a couple of key friends moved away for jobs, and my social circle, which had always felt a bit thin, simply evaporated. The silence in my life became a physical presence. I'd go days without speaking to another human being outside of transactional exchanges with cashiers or baristas. The panic set in. I was convinced I was fading, that I was becoming irrelevant, a forgotten footnote in the story of everyone else's lives. So, I did what I thought you were supposed to do. I launched a full-scale assault on my own loneliness. I said yes to every invitation, even the ones I dreaded. I went to happy hours with coworkers I didn't particularly like. I forced myself into small talk at parties, my face aching from holding a smile that felt like a poorly fitted mask. I collected phone numbers like lottery tickets, thinking that volume was the answer. And for a little while, it worked. My phone buzzed more. My calendar had things scribbled in it. I was busy. But the hollowness inside me didn't just remain, it grew. I'd come home from these outings feeling like I'd been emotionally pickpocketed. I had spent my precious energy, my attention, my focus, my inner quiet, on conversations that were like chewing on cardboard. On listening to people complain about bosses they chose to work for, on gossiping about people we barely knew, on laughing at jokes that weren't funny, just loud. I was trading the pure, honest currency of my own peace for the counterfeit coin of social validation. The lowest point was a night I ended up at a dive bar with a group of guys. The music was throbbing, the beer was cheap, and everyone was slapping each other on the back, telling loud, exaggerated stories. I remember looking around at the laughing faces, and instead of feeling included, I felt a terrifying sense of alienation. They were all there, but they weren't really there. They were performing for each other. I was an actor in a play with no script, and I was exhausted. I slipped out without saying goodbye, walked home in the cold night air, and as I stepped into my dark, silent apartment, I didn't feel loneliness. I felt relief. A profound, bone-deep relief. That was the turning point. That was the moment I stopped seeing the silence as my enemy and started to consider it might be my greatest ally. I started to read, not self-help books, but the words of people who had been dead for centuries. I found Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, sitting in his tent on the bloody frontiers of the Roman Empire, writing words to himself, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." He wasn't talking about barbarian hordes. He was talking about the chatter and opinions of other people. He was building an inner citadel so strong that the noise of the outside world couldn't breach it. I found Epictetus, a former slave, who said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." He was giving me permission to stop caring about the judgment of the shallow crowds I was so desperate to impress. And I found Seneca, who wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. This wasn't about collecting people. It was about meaningful exchange. It was about quality, a standard I had completely abandoned in my desperation. So, I stopped. I cancelled plans. I let my phone go dark. I embraced the silence I had been so terrified of. And in that silence, I started to build. I started working out not for looks, but for discipline. I started reading books that challenged me. I sat with my own thoughts, and at first, it was terrifying. All my anxieties, my insecurities, my regrets, they all came screaming to the surface. But I didn't run. I sat and listened. And slowly, something miraculous happened. The chaos settled. The noise faded. I began to know myself. I started to enjoy my own company. I'd cook a good meal, listen to music I genuinely loved, lose myself in a project. The solitude stopped being a sentence and started becoming a sanctuary. It was the training ground where I was forging a self that I could actually respect. This is the first, most brutal insight. Your lack of friends isn't a social failure, it's a filtration system. Your soul, whether you're consciously aware of it or not, is rejecting the cheap, mass-produced connections that are on offer. It's craving authenticity, depth, and substance. And when you can't find it, it would rather have nothing than accept a counterfeit. That feeling of not fitting in? That's not you being broken. That's you being a deep-sea creature trying to survive in a wading pool. The water is too warm, too bright, and there's no pressure, no depth to support you. You're built for the dark, quiet, high-pressure depths where the truly fascinating things live. The wading pool is for the minnows. Stop trying to be a minnow. The second insight is about power. Solitude is the gym for your soul. Most people are terrified of being alone with their own thoughts because their inner world is a chaotic, untended garden. It's all weeds of regret and thorns of anxiety. So they run. They run to parties, to gossip, to drama, to the glowing screen of their phone, anything to avoid the quiet confrontation with themselves. When you choose to sit in the silence, you are choosing the hard path of self-mastery. You are weeding your own garden. You are building the mental and emotional muscle to be self-sufficient. Imagine two people, one who needs a constant stream of texts, likes, and invitations to feel they exist, and one who can sit for hours in perfect peace, their own mind a sufficient source of company. Which one is truly free? Which one holds the real power? The person who is dependent on external validation is a slave. The person who finds validation within is a king. Your solitude is not a prison, it's your throne room. The third insight is about value. One real connection is worth more than 1,000 hollow acquaintances. Think about the energy you expend maintaining superficial friendships. The remembering of birthdays you don't care about, the listening to problems that are self-created and cyclical, the forced laughter, the feigned interest. It's a tax on your attention, the most precious resource you have. When you stop paying that tax, you get a massive energy dividend back. You can invest that energy in yourself, in your skills, in your peace. You are refusing to sell your soul at a discount. You are holding out for the rare, the genuine, the real. A single conversation where you feel truly seen and understood can fuel your spirit for weeks. 100 conversations about the weather and celebrity gossip will drain you. Your short contact list isn't a sign of poverty. It's a sign of a carefully curated collection. You're not a Walmart. You're a boutique gallery, and you're waiting for the right patron who understands the art. The final, most hopeful insight is about timing. The right people appear when you stop chasing the wrong ones. This isn't a law of attraction fairy tale. It's a law of authenticity. When you are desperately trying to fit in, you are a blurred, fuzzy version of yourself. You're a radio signal full of static. No one can truly tune into who you are because you're not broadcasting a clear frequency. But when you embrace your solitude, when you invest in yourself, when you stop apologizing for your depth and your quiet, you become a lighthouse. You emit a clear, strong, unwavering beam. You are no longer a desperate signal saying, "Please like me." You are a declaration saying, "This is who I am." And that kind of signal is magnetic. It doesn't attract everyone. It repels the vast majority, and that's the point. But it will, with absolute certainty, attract the few other lighthouses, the ones who have also been tending their own flames in the dark. And when you meet, the connection is instant and profound. There's no performance, no mask. It's a meeting of two sovereign beings who recognize the same depth in each other. Those connections are rare, but they are unbreakable. They are worth the wait. So the next time you feel that old, familiar sting, the pang of seeing a crowd you're not part of, I want you to remember this. Remember the relief of walking away from the noise. Remember the strength you're building in the quiet. Remember that you are not waiting for someone to complete you. You are completing yourself. You are not a half-empty glass. You are a well that is being dug deeper, and one day, someone will come along who isn't looking for a sip, but who has their own bucket to lower into your depths. The lack of friends in your life is not proof that you are unworthy. It is proof that you have standards. It is proof that your spirit is too large for small talk and your heart is too valuable for cheap connections. It is proof that you are on the path to becoming someone so solid, so whole, so at peace with themselves, that when the right people finally arrive, they won't be coming to save you from loneliness. They will be coming to join you in your fullness. So stand your ground. Cherish the silence. Build your inner citadel. And never, ever apologize for the depth that requires you to walk alone.